Well, I am broadcasting. There we go. All right, the stream has started. I had one person wait. Good morning, whoever you are. Jeremy KF7IJZ, host of the Ham Radio 360 Workbench podcast. Back again to continue the build process from yesterday. It's quite a bit warmer in here today because the sun is shining right in our morning room. Did a couple of steps last night after I stopped streaming. My wife helped me with some stuff this morning. And so for those following along in the build guide, I am currently on step 37, which I will paste. That's the link to the build guide. I didn't get too much further, just a few steps. This time my family is here, so you may hear them in the background. Commented to my wife, this project has done one thing, and that one thing, hello John, W7JKC from Auburn. Welcome in. One thing this project has definitely reinforced is that I never would have had a future as a watchmaker. I have a very good friend who is a trained watchmaker, and I have a whole new level of respect for that craft. So kind of changed the orientation. The large printer, which again is over a meter tall, is in the floor. What's interesting about this today is we're going to be soldering. So that'll be fun. I have brought my soldering equipment in. I don't think you can see the tip of the iron right here. Let's see if I can. I'm going to see if I can adjust the camera just a little bit more so folks can get a better overview shot. That didn't really help very much at all, but that's okay. So some wiring stuff done on the main frame, and then now I have my wife helped me install these lights. She lined them up perfectly, which is something I just get frustrated with. So we're appreciative of that. So now the next step is there were some wire that you had to cut off in a previous step. Now it's time to cut these pieces up because we're going to solder all the wires to link the lighting strips together. It's you can barely see it. This is the Z column, which the Z column is where the instructions have you run power leads for the LED lighting. So I've marked that so I remember which is which as I'm soldering these together, because basically these have to be put together in series. John, I don't know if you've heard my story, but I got my call sign at the Puyallup Ham Fest in 2000. I don't remember if it was 2009 or 2010. I guess I should pay attention because technically that means my call sign renewal is up soon. But that is why I have a 7. Dennis Dorr from Caracas. Hello. Thank you for joining the stream. Okay. As I was doing yesterday, you guys can read the instructions along with me. All right. Soldering the LED strips. Strip 2 millimeters of insulation from the end of the wires that you save from steps 32. Tin the ends of all 4 LED strip terminal pads on the corner with the X label, which is underneath where you can't see. Carefully solder the red wire. Yeah. Route the wire to the plus pad on the other LED strip and cut it to length. Yeah, the funny thing about this is technically, I think, I don't know. I wish they said how to cut this because I don't know if this. So this is 200 millimeters of wire. To bridge the gap, you don't quite need half of it. So I don't know if this is a deal where I cut it in half or not. Smitty, welcome. Good morning. Hold on, let me change back to the camera. So, okay, John, you recall. This again, no one wants to watch unedited live streams. No one would do that. Yeah, thanks, Smitty. What is the name of that blue octopus thing that you make projects on? So this, I think the company name was Hobby Creek, if I remember correctly. And this base in particular is built for the Panavice Junior, which is mounted here. It's got these forward helping hands arms, which are pretty awesome. This was a birthday gift from my lovely wife last year. And it has come in handy. Not as handy as sometimes I'd hoped. There are knockoffs of this available on Amazon. This came from Adafruit, and they also sell versions of this that are just little square or rectangular plates instead of the big one for the Panavice. Phuket, PA1TAS. JW.org. Good afternoon from the Netherlands, and I hope it goes great with the stream. Thank you from the Netherlands. I just spent some time in Dayton with your countrymen. Goose Van Doorn, PE1 PLM. I don't know if you're familiar with his work with the DV Mega. But everybody I have ever worked with from the Netherlands have always been absolutely phenomenal people. Let's see. Good morning. Smitty, are you going to stream? All right, so going back to the instructions. Carefully solder, route the wire, blah, blah, blah. Repeat the process, blah, blah, blah. Repeat the steps above the Y corner. All right, so I'm pretty 90% sure this is the X. No, that's the Y. Okay, well, good thing I didn't make assumptions. This is the X corner. Okay, one of these solder pads is already timmed. Repeat the steps above. Let's see, yeah. One of the things that Michael pointed out in the instructions is just making sure that the polarity is consistent. So in this particular case, all of the pluses are on the interior, the triangle negatives are on the out. One thing that was a little annoying to me is here on this bracket, they give you these little plastic clips as additional ways of holding the light strips on. These are adhesive backed. My wife was pulling the tape off of the back of one of them, the adhesive came off the strip, which wasn't very helpful. And then, you know, these things should be roughly evenly spaced like this. Here, there's a solder joint, so I feel like this tape was just cut a little sloppily. You know, that happens, that's fine. We can work through that. I'm reading step, I guess I should show you what I'm reading. I brought the helping hands in to hold the wires as they get tinned. To strip them, this was a gift from a listener at Dayton. He gave me a big one and a small one. This is the small one. I don't have the big one anymore because it was missing the retaining clip, and the whole thing came apart, and there's a little cam pin in there that came out. I tried everything, and I could not get the thing to reassemble. So the big one, unfortunately, was sent to Dev Null. But I have an Irwin set of automatic wire strippers, which are very good, but for trying to get a little bit more precise in the length, there's a little millimeter gauge on here, whereas the other one's in inches. All right. So yeah, that seems to make sense. I'm trying to find the part that says I can't just cut these in half. Choose one LED strip of the Z corner and tin its terminal pads. Fortunately, one of mine is already in. Locate the roll of 6mm Kapton tape. Gently lift the end of each LED strip of the corner and put 2 strips underneath the terminal pads to insulate them. So not one. Now tape over all the terminal pads except the tin pads in the Z corner with 2 strips of Kapton tape. Second photo shows the Z corner should end up. So one thing I was not counting on about this kit is, so next it actually has us installing these things. There's going to be soldering upside down, which I wasn't prepared for that. And that's okay. I don't think they would actually have you flip the printer over, but maybe they do. Actually, it might make sense if you did, quite frankly. So yeah, this 200 millimeters of wire, I see no reason why it can't be just cut in half. Strips of Kapton tape. Okay. The funny thing is honestly, even half is a little bit long. I don't know. I'm going to try, I guess, what they have suggested. These have wire cutters in them, so I'll start with that. So the first thing we need to do, I don't have my fume extractor in here, so I do have this little tiny fan, which is also trying to help keep me cool, but I will also use it to blow fumes away from the work area. But step one is activating my trusty Hako. Also making sure the cable isn't tangled. Well, that's a little crusty. I didn't do as good a job cleaning that as I could have after my last soldering attempt. What I love, though, is this has a little brass scrubby, and this is just going to be in the way. Maintaining a clean work area is obviously very important, both for efficiency and safety. I just realized I'm still showing my screen. Okay. So yeah, here's the tip. A little bit of a little crusty on there, but the sponge is wet. Let's see if I have any comments from the peanut gallery. Nope, we are good. All right, so step one is going to be, well, actually, hold on. Tin the ends of all four, tin the ends of the wire with solder. Tin the ends of all 4 LED strip terminal pads on the corner with the X label. Okay, so we're going to start with that. So the iron is now on and heating. Tangling cords. Still waiting for the iron to heat up. Okay. Excuse me, work temperature, I've got it set on about 375 Celsius. I'm just running it through the scrubby. These things really are a joy to work with. Took that blob of ugly solder right off. Put some fresh solder on. Just make sure the tip is nice and tinned. Okay. Drag the remaining off. Shine it up in the brush. Okay, we're good to go. Too much solder in the scrubby is picking schmutz up. Okay. This is a little bit tricky because these are basically just plastic pads, and the soldering iron is capable of melting them. Nice and wet. Okay. All right, so those are good. Hi, baby. I'm reading instructions again. All right. I need to retin this. Starting to oxidize. Okay. Now, I need to get these two to get together. Okay. There's one lead. And actually, I want to make sure that I'm not contacting the frame. Actually, it's a good question. I don't know if anodized aluminum is conductive or not, because that's what this is anodized aluminum. Anybody in the room knows? John Callan, what kind of granola bar do you recommend when going home? Well, I don't know that I have an official recommendation. George would recommend a Kind bar. These are the Kroger brand chewy granola bar, which for you would be available at either Fred Meyer's or QFC. All right, one down. Okay. Now to put the black wire on. I don't have enough hands for this. Okay, that's two, although I think actually that could stand to have just a hair more solder. That wet quite nicely. Sad thing is, I think that's good. I don't know if I technically, I don't think I made any solder bridges, but I will. I will want a magnifier to double check that. All right, now, in the interest of being efficient, we're going to cut these to length. To be clear, I did not leave myself a ton of margin there. That's probably okay. And it's not like I don't have other wire if something gets screwed up here, right? Okay. Now I'm taking, it wasn't enough. just like you said, about 1/8 of an inch. Sad thing is, when these things don't suck, they're pretty good. All right. Reach in to fight that oxidation. This tip is about at the end of its useful service life. There's one very poorly tinned wire. And there's two very poorly tinned wires. By the way, John, I can't tell you what granola bar I recommend, but I do highly recommend Arizona Arnold Palmer tea. I'm addicted to this stuff. All right. I have two pseudo-tinned wires. Tinned enough, right? By the way, having a brass scrubby and a good sponge really makes a world of difference. All right, here's the part where I probably almost burned my fingers. So watch out for hilarity to ensue. Okay. Ooh, hot. Yeah, plastic melted. Not a big surprise. Problem is these wires conduct heat, and the hot solder is hot. Use tweezers. Yeah, that would be smart. I actually do have tweezers nearby. There we go. I have successfully connected two sides together, I think. Probably. It's not a problem. You want the solder to be shiny and bulbous, don't you? I'm kidding. Mostly. I am stripping the remaining pieces of wire. As these need, this is what I need the helping hands for. Try and get ceramic ones so it doesn't get magnetic. Ooh, ceramic tweezers, that sounds fancy. And when I said sounds fancy, I think my wife just heard me say expensive. I've never heard of ceramic tweezers. Boy, not gonna lie, that was a terrible job tinning. Sounds like my son is awake. He took a little impromptu nap in the pack and play. Yep, that is a terrible job tinning, but it is tin. Of course, I got to remember that oftentimes when you see tin parts, they were probably done by dipping in a pot. My local micro center sells a solder pot. I just don't see any. Not that having multiple uses for a tool has always been a perfect prerequisite for me buying stuff, but that is definitely something I don't see a need for at the moment. You know, I hate to admit this out loud because I'm sure it's not good, but I'm smelling chemical smells I've never smelled before. So I'm sure this is the finest, highest quality jacketed wire available. On Banggood, you can get them for about €2. You can get everything for cheap on Banggood. If you're not familiar with Banggood, Banggood is another Chinese kind of clearinghouse is the wrong word, but they have a lot of electronics and tools available very inexpensively, similar to what you would find with Alibaba or Deal Extreme, and they work. Yeah, that's been the best part. I have I got a little DC power meter from Banggood not too long ago, and it mostly works. All right. Yeah, you're still watching the guy who can take 25 minutes to do a 5-minute step, so my apologies. Tin the ends of all 4. Yep. Carefully solder the red wire. Yep. Route the wire to the plus terminal. Yep. Cut it to length. Yep. Tin it, solder it to the plus pad. Repeat this process. Repeat the steps of the Y corner. Okay. So the octopus can go away now. So if you are a listener of our show, you know that I am a Hako fan and George is a Weller person. What soldering equipment do you folks use? Smitty, I've never watched you solder, so I don't know what you have. Okay. Now we're going to be tinning leads. This is another thing. Stripping wire is really important, but you get such a little mess. And I have some solder blobs. I probably don't want to leave those out. As delicious as solder is, all right. Hogcat has an old Weller station. When I was a boy, obviously we didn't have, Hako wasn't a thing. But our grandfathers all had Weller soldering equipment, and we all thought that was the bee's knees. Of course, I, like most people in America, had the little 15-watt Radio Shack pencil. When I got older, I spent the $15 and bought the dual power. I think it was 45 watts in the high position and like 10 or 15 in the low. But I don't know, I said on an episode once, it wasn't until that I bought this Hako that I learned that I had been soldering wrong my entire life.
Katie, get your socks on. Yeah.
While we're talking about soldering, one thing that really frustrates me is soldering GPIO pins on Raspberry Pi Zeros. Using the tip I'm using now, I've had absolutely zero problems soldering header pins on Pimoroni hats that usually they don't come with the GPIO pins installed. You have to do that yourself. And I've had zero problems soldering those. And they're the same pitch, they're the same size, they're tiny. But for some reason, sorry, that didn't quite wet well enough. For some reason, even though they're the same size and everything, ooh, that's a cold solder joint. Probably because I have a fan blowing right at it. There we go. I don't know. Just maybe the solder pads around the pins are smaller. They always come out terrible for me. Not happy about it. Paul, hello, Paul. Jeremy is the name here. Paul, where did you see me post this? Was it Twitter? Was it the Ham Radio 360 group, or was it the Ultibots group? And thank you for spending your morning with us. It is, first of all, Smitty Halibut, who is in the channel right now, is the one who turned me on to the streaming thing. And what I found yesterday is that actually, even though I talk a lot, it actually does keep you a little more focused for the work at hand, which I was kind of surprised about. But as I was working on the other steps, I was just getting frustrated a lot, and having an audience helps me keep my cool. I don't know what it is, but I get panicked isn't the right word, but like I said yesterday, sometimes I forget to breathe when I'm working on things. And I know that makes absolutely no sense. But I'm not very good when it comes to tedium like this. Or minutia, small things. That's too big. Ah, okay, Paul is on YouTube. I didn't even think that you might have been one of my followers. So for those of you, there are 5 of you online right now. Thank you very much. Today is a holiday in America, Memorial Day. And for those of you who are not familiar with what I'm doing, is I am constructing my Ultibots D300VS 3D printer. This is a very sizable Delta-style 3D printer with premium components available on Ultibots.com. This is my second 3D printer and my first 3D printing kit. As I explained yesterday, I don't have much of a history of being very mechanically inclined when it comes to stuff like this. But well, there's no option to buy it assembled, and honestly, if there were, it would probably be a $2,000 printer. This is a $1,000 American printing kit with all top-shelf components, open build, extrusions, and hardware, duet Wi-Fi, controller board, E3D V6 hot end, genuine. Yes, good morning, Jeff. This is, in fact, the very same. Thank you, Paul. Good tip. The very same soldering iron that was left on for 2 weeks. Yeah, that was embarrassing. Yeah, I actually have a fume extractor and completely forgot that it normally is, you know, pulling smoke towards it. But I didn't bring that in here just because it's fairly large and loud. I have this little USB computer fan, which these little guys, that might have been too short. These little guys are used to cool single board computers before I get them in clusters. I just have one like sitting out on my desk or something. Paul says he is going to be building a Delta printer too. Awesome. It's my first Delta. My first 3D printer is a PrinterBot Play, which was a fantastic introduction to 3D printing. It taught me all about RepRap printers, and I've done a ton of upgrades to it, which have really helped improve its quality and capability overall. Well, that was the worst soldering job ever. Oh, okay, I have ruined the cable. It delaminated on me. So we're going to start again. Michael, good morning. Howdy. Welcome in, the 4 people that are watching. I don't know who was left and coming. Oh, we're up to 5. Yesterday, at my highest, I was up to 10, which, again, is just truly humbling that somebody would spend time out of their busy day watching me complain about building kits being hard and watching me solder incorrectly. That didn't quite do what I wanted it to. Okay. There we go. Can watch for hours. I mean, point of fact, it's a good way to learn what not to do. I told people yesterday, so I started playing around with woodworking last year, put a couple of videos up of finishing. I learned a lot from that, and a lot of other people sent me a lot of nice notes saying, I learned so much by watching you make terrible mistakes. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm happy to give back to the community. And of course, I nearly cut that piece too short. Well, that stinks. I definitely cut that piece too short. Like there is that's really bizarre. Well, yep, that's too short, all right. Yep, that is too short. We're not going to be able to use that. I'm going to have to figure something else out. Boy, that really stinks. I mean, the red one is almost too short, but I can probably make that work. But the black one, there is just no way that I will get meaningful contact without having, well, I say there's no way. We're going to try this. Okay. Okay. So the red one I'm definitely fine on. The black one, if I have 3 hands, I can make this work. Try and keep it longer than you think it must be. Yeah, I did that. I just, no, I did that. I just wasn't paying attention when I actually went to cut. And the other reason I thought it was gauge, I mean, just if you look, so the red piece is the piece that I cut off, and these two pieces of wire were the same size. The black is the black piece that I cut off, thinking I left plenty of room, but I forgot I had to trim an end of it off because I had done a poor job. It's okay. We're gonna make this work. Probably. Okay, red one first. Here's the part where I burned my finger.
No.
Yeah, it didn't work. It's okay. All these like little small movements and stuff, this stuff drives me nuts. Javier Cordero, well, what do we have here? It looks like the beginnings of something good. Ha! Hello, sir.
Hey, honey.
Well, actually, I know Javier, I apologize. We'll go with Javier. Javier is somebody who's already been through this process with building one of these printers, and if I'm not mistaken, some of your test prints have come out absolutely fantastic. You're well on the way of tuning yours. So far, I've got about 12 hours. No, realistically, yeah, we'll call it 12 hours into this build, and I'm not even 50% done. My time should only be examined in case you're curious what the absolute slowest time for a build like this would be. Please don't burn my finger, self. Okay. That worked. Now, like I said, I think I'm going to be able to make this work on the other side. I'm going to have to tin this because I don't have enough hands to hold all the things I want to. Yep, build 2, pinky in the brain. Nice. Slow but sure, yes. Slow and steady wins this race. At least that's what I'm going to tell myself. There are certain things, like I got my wife to help me put these adhesive LEDs on because between trying to flatten them and making sure they're lined up and making sure that they're perfectly on the edge and everything, like it just gets very stressful for me to manage that many variables at once. Are you guys leaving?
Yeah.
Are you going to the store?
Yeah.
The grocery, I mean?
Yeah.
Tell the internet bye-bye. Bye. I have some special requests. I will ping you.
Okay. Love you.
Hello, Michael, you're back. Yes, Michael was here yesterday cheering me on. So far, we haven't destroyed anything, so that's still good. I cut my wires too short for this step. So we're trying to, you know, thankfully I have lots of extra Kapton tape from the build area covering on my other printer. Okay. Oops, yeah. Well, so what's funny is that in the instructions, I mean, 200 millimeters is more than enough to do this. I just got in a little bit of a hurry. Certainly did not intend to. Please don't burn my fingers, self. Ah. Okay. Make sure you insulate all the joints between the LED strips and printer with Kapton. You don't want to short blowing your duet. Nope, I don't. Like I said, thankfully I have a lot of extra Kapton. So I will be insulating. Although, actually, that answers a good question. Does anodized aluminum conduct electricity? These days, my printer is busy keeping my plasma machine running. Love being able to print replacement parts for it in hours instead of waiting weeks for replacement from the US. Is this I'm assuming some type of plasma cutter? That's pretty awesome. Do you need anything, hon?
No.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna go resolder this joint over here because it looks a little wonky. If it is a plasma cutter, Javier, that you have, what cutter is it, and what do you cut with it? Well, cried. I'm gonna have to get a magnifier to see if there's a solder bridge there. I really can't tell. Actually, my phone's upstairs, which is also a little bit out of character for me. All right, all these solder joints look acceptable. Nothing more, nothing less. Everything will need to be insulated. But I get to move on to another step. Hello, dog. You probably need to go out here in a moment, don't you? Repeat the steps with the Y corner. Yes. Choose one LED strip at the Z corner and tin its terminal pads. Well, in my case, the terminal pads are already tin, although those are awful small. That might just get capped on, and I might just do the other ones. The LED wire is running up the Z column. Will connect to only one of the LED strips at the Z corner. No connections are made to the other end. Locate the roll of 6mm Kapton tape. Gently lift the end of each LED strip to the corner and put 2 strips underneath the terminal pads to insulate them. Yep. Now tape over all the metal pads except the tin Z pads in the corner. The 2 strips of Kapton tape, CV. The second photo shows the corner. Okay, so first things first is tinning these pads, verifying. Yeah, that's the. If you, I don't know if you can see that. So those came. You probably can't see that. Those came partially tinned, but the pads are really small. So I'm going to tin the huge ones that are sitting here. So far, let's see, we'll put it back in the comments. So these, I will say this for the kit building, so far the most satisfying part has been when you put the carriages on the vertical bars and time them to take 2 seconds for the fall. That has been that was incredibly satisfying. Because it's the first time that the motion portions start coming together, and you're like, oh wow, this really is going to be a printer. Okay. we have our solder pads, and for now, that should conclude the soldering portions of these steps. So go ahead and turn the iron off. Okay. Front row. There we go. Okay. Now, what is next? Is the Kapton tape. Okay, I have to dig through a parts box off camera for that. Kapton film tape. Amber. Awesome. Excuse me, folks. I'm going to walk a step away from the camera and run the dog outside as he needs to go. Come on, Finn. All right, I have returned. Yeah, so the story, yes, I have cats. What happens if we see his solder iron catch fire? Yeah, so I'm not proud of this, but I think the project I was working on, soldering the programming jumpers for the DV Mega hotspot, and I left my iron on, and I didn't know it, and I didn't realize it for 2 weeks. And it was sitting in the, here in the cradle the whole time. But I just never realized it because on the Hako, this is one thing I don't like, which I think Dave Jones actually has a fix for this. But the LED on the unit, it only blinks, like it pulses when it gets to temperature. It doesn't stay on to tell you that it's reached temperature. And I just happened to be sitting in the floor and noticed, I happened to catch the blink and realized it had been turned on for 2 weeks, which was very dumb and very stupid. So we did an episode about building what I call an idiot switch. Now, just as point of reference, in addition to making sure it's turned off, when I leave it on my workbench, I leave the iron unplugged from the cable. So yeah, that was pretty awesome. Now the other thing, real quickly, so while I was outside, I discovered a snake in one of my bushes. So I want to go, I did not recognize what kind it was, and I'm not familiar with snakes in southern Ohio, so I'm going to go look that up real quick. Or southwestern Ohio. 3 species of pit viper. The only poison: the timber rattler, the pygmy rattlesnake, and the northern copperhead. Well, this may be, this isn't very helpful. I'm looking for a pictorial reference of snakes of Ohio. Where is the slideshow? Or maybe this is the slideshow. It was only about a foot long. It wasn't a queen snake. No, it kind of had like a, I don't know, it could be a hog nose. Nope. 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 Not a rat snake. Not a fox snake. Not a king snake. Not a milk snake. Not a garter. No. This thing was far more uniform in color. Plains garter snakes. Butler's garter snake. Definitely wasn't green. What was weird about this thing is it was up in a bush in the front yard. Well, that didn't help. You know what? I'll go. Well, I can't go get a picture. I don't have my phone nearby. It had kind of a bull nose. It had a broad head with 4 very pronounced dots on the back of the head. The scaling pattern was fairly uniform, but you know, it was almost like it looked fuzzy, which I know doesn't make sense. It definitely, well, it wasn't a rattlesnake. It had no rattle, and it definitely was not a copperhead, which is probably the only thing that I really care about. This looks like a nice guide. Lizards, turtles, snakes. I don't know. It might have been. It might. I don't know. It might have. It didn't have the big white stripe on the side though. Juvenile hognose. Get back to building your printer, then you can print us. All right, fair enough. All right, capped on tape. Let's get back to the camera. I appreciate the encouragement. Thank you. All right, so I'm assuming DuPont capped on film tape amber, 1/4 by 5 yards, 1 mil silicone adhesive. I actually have some 4 mil capped on in the other room. This step is going to require scissors. Sorry, Finn. Also, Michael, you can tell me, can I cut these capped on pieces fairly liberally, or do I need like every last millimeter on this roll for various steps in the project? In other words, the strips that you show cutting are very small. Some of mine are going to need to be decidedly bigger. I barely made a dent in mine. Okay, there is plenty of tape. Sweet. Although actually I just realized that's okay. I'll figure it out. Basically, it sounds like I just need to put capped on everywhere where there is an electrical connection. So we will do that, assuming I can find the start of the roll. Okay, and there's the start of the roll. By the way, if there's one thing I hate, it is capped on, because this stuff is so thin and flimsy. Oh, great. These scissors are rubbish. Okay, first piece of capped on. There's one. This probably is about as exciting as watching paint dry. The instructions say 2 pieces of Kapton under each joint. So there's 2. And this is the one we do not put Kapton over. Tape underneath and above. Just want to make sure route the wire, blah, blah, blah. Strip 2, yep, repeat the, yep, okay, go. Locate the roll, gently lift each end of the LED strip at the corner, and put 2 strips underneath the terminal pads to insulate. Yeah, okay, that's what we're doing. So, I gotta do this side. Okay. Nope. Okay, there's my 2 on the bottom. I'm assuming oh, it said 2 strips on top too. Okay. Gonna be a little bit messy with Kapton. So Michael, I'm not watching the chat window right now, but how long did it take you to assemble your first printer? Because obviously the second one you were writing instructions and you know, photographing. But I always am curious how long it takes normal or gifted people to do things. Watching paint dry, when there are movement else, I would have fallen asleep. Okay, that's one corner done. You know, this lighting is actually, sorry for the silence, this isn't very much very interactive, but one of the things I'm super excited about is having the lighted build stage, because especially on the printer bot, which by default comes with this huge metal cover, and the argument that was made was, well, we're marketing these to educational institutions and we want kids to be safe and not burn themselves, yada, yada, yada. Okay, fine. I replaced mine with somebody who designed a very lightweight cover for the print head on the play that would not only does it open things up so you can actually see what's going on, they included provisions to be able to mount an LED that moved the part cooling fan, or the part cooling fan, to a much more efficient location, and it reduced the weight on the print head significantly, which is always good. Okay, 2 strips of Kapton there. I'm going to trim up after myself. So I don't mind it looking messy underneath. I do mind it looking messy on the side. Okay. Actually, that still didn't do what I wanted it to. There we go. Now 2 on the top. $18 hours, okay. I think there is somebody who's managed to build one of these in about 8 or 10 hours, unless I'm misremembering, which happens. I wonder what the breakdown voltage of Kapton tape is. I'm sure there's a spec for it. Yeah, when it comes to kits, I'm just not very fast. Part of it's just being stressed out about not missing anything or not doing anything wrong. Okay. Remember when Michael was first posting the build guide for this, he was asking people to run a stopwatch as they constructed the steps so he could start collecting average times to complete them. And I very much, whenever I can provide feedback like that, especially when people have gone to great efforts to put something like this together, I always like to try to help out. And the very first time I sat down to do this, I did run a stopwatch. I just completely forgot to, it took me so long to get through the steps in the beginning that I just completely forgot to go back and actually check it. So that wasn't of much help. Now what's super exciting is once I get this done, then you actually mount this on top of the towers. What's funny, as I move the base of the printer into the floor just to have more room, and one of the channel covers slid all the way out, so I got to reroute that through and get the wires covered back up. I just keep reminding myself this will all be worth it once I get the printer tuned in. I haven't really been paying much attention, especially as we were getting ready for the Hamvention and everything. I wasn't getting on Facebook very much, and I know, Michael, I believe I saw you post something about a version of Kiss Slicer with this, which I think is your preferred slicer. I know that the two that seem to have the most traction, everybody wants to use Simplify 3D, and there are people who have worked on profiles for it. I own a copy, but I've actually never used it. With the printer bot, I always stuck with Cura. Just never had a reason to try to play with anything else. And then the Kiss and any of those others, like slicer spelled with a 3, or slick 3R as Thomas Sandlander calls it. I never played with any of the other ones, and it seems like the Prusa edition of Slicer and Kiss are the preferred ones. All right, I'm on the final corner here. This one's going to be a little more difficult because this is where I have like no clearance for the wires because, you know, I'm awesome like that. You know, I saw this in person at Midwest Rep Rap Fest when Michael brought his, and I still actually seeing it starting to be assembled in my house. It is truly huge. It's just a big printer, like a lot bigger than I was, I don't know, remembering. Okay, 2 pieces underneath. I'm going to do both underneaths before I do the on tops. So I'm actually having to peel these back quite a bit. Another thing that I just keep forgetting about this printer is it's a 24-volt printer instead of a 12-volt. I only bring that up because these LED strips are labeled 24 volts, which is cool. I need a new piece of tape. Some of my LED strips, the adhesive peeled away with the backing. My wife was able to fix that, fortunately. And that was still kind of annoying. You know, most of the parts in this kit are absolutely top-notch, but not quite all of them. There we go. Chat room says, QRX here, got to get to bed. See, I can't sit in the wheelchair anymore. Too much problems keep me in the wheelchair. Well, thank you, Paul, very much for stopping by. It's very good to see you. Have a wonderful evening. Enjoy your rest. And may you have a fantastic day tomorrow. Okay. Now to do the tops, and then this step is almost complete. Okay. You know, it seems like all the best printers these days are kits. The Prusa Mark II, i3 Mark II is a kit, available as a kit. The other design I looked at quite a while before deciding to go this route was the Core XY printer, the D-Bot. A coworker of mine had a lot of good things to say about them. Actually, when we were at Midwest Rep Fest, I found a gentleman who was a ham. He was wearing a shirt with his saying something about ham radio, and I talked to him, and he and his daughter were co-building a D-Bot, and actually the Open Builds folks were at Midwest, and they she brought all of her components, and they did a live stream of her build from the festival. And Paul is back. Welcome back. I'm still not done with taping things. Because why would I ever do anything quickly? I'm almost done. I'm on the last joint. Still really wondering what that snake was out front. Might try to catch it. Snakes don't really bother me unless they're the dangerous kind. I have some decent experience dealing with those. That's not going to work. Hold on. I have made a tremendous mess of things on this one. Oh. Well, we can do better. Just realized this particular piece of the wire, the one that was too short, but I still managed to solder it, needs a little help under just a little bit more, just to make sure. There we go. So, Paul, does everyone in the Netherlands speak English? I am from Africa and used to eat them quite nice if you prepare well. No. I have never eaten snake. I have heard good things. But it's like anything else, right? If you know how to cook it properly, then I'm sure it's fine. Okay. All of our corners have now been was born in South Africa and immigrated here in 1999. Actually, the coworker of mine who got me into 3D printing is also a South African expat. And then one of my earliest, I guess, YouTube inspirations, MJ Martin. He also a South African expat. He lived in Ohio for a while, but I think he moved to Tennessee. I'm not sure. Oh, thank God I'm not doing the pictures for this build. No tape over the terminal pads except the tin pads in the Z corner. Okay. Step 39, meaning we're almost halfway through. The top assembly must be installed with the labels you applied facing up and the XYZ corners aligned. Check. The idler pulley holes in the loop bracket must be closest to the bottom. Check. Align the T-nuts and carefully lower the top assembly onto the towers. Wiggle and jiggle the T-nuts until the top assembly slides over both T-nuts in each corner bracket. It helps to have a helper with this step, but it can be done alone if you align the T-nuts and work slowly. The third photo is annotated to show the conventional orientation for Delta printers. The X tower is on the left, Y to the right, and Z in the center back. Okay. this sounds completely reasonable. At this point, we're going to scoot the laptop back. Michael, were you here? I think you mentioned something about that before, but were you born in Ohio? I'm in Cincinnati. Oh, I can't wait for this build to be over. It won't be this year because I have other hobby priorities, but I also plan on picking up an i3 Mark II. Actually, when I got back from Murph, I told my wife that my vision was very clear that I needed 2 printers. One needed to be this, the other needed to be that. And she said, go ahead and order it. And actually, when I met Joe, he told me if I shot him an email, that he would move me up in the queue. I had to leave Murph very quickly because my son had a seizure the night before and was rushed to the hospital. Everything turned out to be fine. It was something called febrile seizures, which happen in young children if their temperatures raise too high too quickly. So it's more about the rate of the increase than it is the max temperature. Up by Dayton Springfield. Oh, Enid, okay. Yeah, sorry, I get it now. I didn't realize that. I have never heard of Enon. I've heard of Eaton, E-A-T-O-N, I believe. But I was just in Xenia last weekend for Hamvention. All right, I don't need a screwdriver. This I'm just going to set in the chair for now. I'm just trying to clear enough room. Get all the unneeded things out of the way, which includes moving the camera and the computer back. Yeah, let me wipe the table down. It definitely marred and scratched this table up a little bit. Thankfully, it's just IKEA. But Enon is done backwards. And Michael was born in Germany. Very cool. All right. Now this is a bit of a mess. All right, so one of the things, as I mentioned, is this rail thing came out, or channel. I'm going to have to get it slid back in. I like how clean this makes the build, though. And what's also super nice about this stuff is if you get it in well and the cables don't get in the way, I mean, it just slides, which is good because in this case, that's why I had a problem, is because when I lifted the printer, it literally just slid out. Yeah. Yay! Awesome. Okay. He says a bit. Looks better than my place. Yeah. I think my wife would kill me if she knew I was streaming into that area. This is part of the problem, right? I mean, kids, you have a surface, stuff just collects. Those apples or something. Yeah, stuff just collects everywhere. So I've been very happy with this webcam purchase, given that it was only like $50. Again, thank you, local Micro Center. I think for this step, we're going to want a little more height. I don't know how best to try to, without getting everybody motion sick. Yeah, that'll do. So this is the Z pillar because here are the wires that I'll be soldering here shortly. Actually, can pull those down a bit. Don't want to pull them too much because I don't want to pull them out. The end stops are mounted. One tool, my dad actually gave this to me. This is a little, it's a little pocket measure, and you know, it's got millimeters and inches on it, and it's really helpful for, you know, setting the depth of things. So I used it to measure the 60 millimeters. It bothers me that camera's not level. That should be better. So yeah, the part that you guys missed was, you won't see the bottoms, but they all take about 2 seconds to hit down. I like the action. I did not end up going with polycarbonate wheels because a lot of people, Michael included, thought that would be overkill. I like the way they look, but this is, I can't believe there's going to be a thing and these are going to be going up and down and awesomeness will happen. All right. Install the top of the towers. Let me show you guys the instructions as I have been doing. Install the top of the towers. The top assembly must be installed with labels. The idler pulley holes in the top bracket must be closest to the bottom. Yep, we got that. Align the T-nuts. So I assume to some extent the idler pulley holes in the top must be clear. Okay. This is, I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of a, not trick, but I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of work for this. Oh, that one scratched. So, to me, this is the moment of truth. I have them aligned appropriately. I do completely understand now why they say this is much easier if you have people helping. Step one is to get the T-nut oriented and to make sure that the wiring is not going to get bitten by the slot. So that T-nut went sideways. It's interesting. You can tell these vertical braces aren't perfectly square because there's a little bit of tension. Like putting the top on is drawing them in. If that makes sense to me. So far, so good. Was that one? That one might have already been aligned. Huh. I might have to stand on a chair to figure out what to do next. Because I believe that, yeah, that T-nut happened to be oriented correctly. Okay, that one is partially in. The Z is the one that I think is going to give me the most trouble. I'm basing this purely off the fact that so far it's the one giving me the most trouble. I hate to say it, but this may end up being like it says in the instructions. I may have to wait for my wife to get home to do this. Not quite. There we go. So yeah, the Z is the only one that's going to be problematic. You know what might fix it? For all I know, this one's too tight. Yep, that's what was wrong. Perfect. May still be too tight. There we go. All of them are on, I think. Yep. They're all on. Now, the instructions state eight millimeters. Eight millimeters. Well, that's 8 millimeters. So I'm going to snug these up. Not tight, but snug. Nope, too much. There we go. Okay. Top is on. Well, that's ridiculous. Okay, that's step 39. All right, I am going to take a quick break, and I will be right back. Everybody feel free to get up and get a refreshment. Stretch your legs. Use the restroom. That's good stuff. All right, be right back. So I went to investigate the snake a little more. I doubt this will come out. That's its head. I don't know. To me, it looks like a little baby queen snake based on the body colorings, but it's in a bush in my front yard, and I do have like a creek in the back, but it's awfully far from water. So, yeah. Okay. Let's see. Oh, the webcam. He says a bit. Looking better. Okay. When you get back, which webcam? So this is a Logitech 920. They just replaced it with the 922, which is $100. The 922 definitely has better low light, but considering if ever I'm streaming a build, I'm either going to be in my workbench or somewhere where there's tons of light, so that wasn't a consideration. Like I said, Micro Center had this for 50 or 60 bucks. I don't remember. And also, congratulations on your son graduating. I saw some of the pictures. Okay. It is about 2 o'clock. So that was step 39. Top assembly must be installed with labels. Apply to line the T-nuts carefully. We did all that. Helps to have a helper. The third photo is annotated to show conventional orientation for Delta printers. The X tower is to the left, Y to the right, and Z in the center back. Yes. All right. Next is connecting the LEDs. Flip the entire printer upside down so the top is sitting on your table with the Z tower on your right. So I don't have to solder upside down. Strip 2 millimeters of insulation. All right, so the next step is to solder these. I'm actually going to, stop the stream for now. It is 2 o'clock. I'm going to get myself some lunch and go work on another project. Although, man, I bet you I could solder this up. Well, I wouldn't really want to try because the stop wire is awful close to where that is, and I got to be careful not to nick that. That's something else I learned too. These the micro switches used for the stop detection or the end stops are very the metal fatigues on the blades very easily. Like I was actually worried I was going to break one of them off while I was attaching the wires. So definitely be careful of that. I want to see if anybody posted anything else. Yep, you're welcome. Well, thank you. It's literally the least I could do, given I wouldn't be here right now, but for you. I'm assuming these bars don't continue to stick 8 millimeters out, but who knows? Anyway, I'm going to take a break. Probably get back online a little bit later. Don't know what else the wife has in mind. My goal for the weekend is to get through step 45, which I'm 4 steps away from. I may or may not stream those. But if I can get to step 45, that will have been a major accomplishment for me. I'm getting halfway through the build. But it's really starting to see how this thing comes together. I mean, and I'm guessing the next things that I have to do are really starting to install the electronics and start attaching things. I know I'm going to probably have to, there's more crimping and soldering ahead. But made it this far, and like I said, like having this thing sitting here, it's finally starting to come together. I cannot wait to get printing. Also, Michael, I need to shoot you an email because I want to talk to you about getting your model for your reels. I think I told you about this. I have a dear pair of friends who live back in DC that he and she met because of their love of fly fishing. And I think they would get a big kick out of that. So anyway, everybody have a fantastic day. Thanks for spending a couple hours with me. And look, you can, more about the podcast Ham Radio 360 at hamradio360.com. You can follow me on Twitter at KF7IJZ, or Z for those of you who are not in the country. Yeah, thanks a lot.